I'm a chemist. What I like is molecules, atoms, electrons, and a valid question would be why I am entering into fields such as politics. Well, because in chemistry, important stuff happens when positive and negative charges come together. Things like chemical bonds, happen. So same thing can be applied to society and political sciences. That means when opposite ideas come together, people can really benefit. Right now, we are living in an interesting moment where our country is divided, the world is polarized. So we are in the edge of a global crisis. So what is interesting about the different length scale, when you go from small, you would reach to infinity. When you go to deep inside to your body, you would enter electrons, proton, nucleus, right? And then each of them, they have different constituents. That means you would reach infinity. When you go to stars, it's just uncountable. And an interesting point is that stars go around a galaxy point, electrons go around protons. So these are all of my motivation, that could connect the small world to the big world. And I think that quantum physics is the ultimate, basically, image of nature, to model all of those length scales. And I will, talk about it further. So here is the outline, introduction to quantum computing, quantum finance, quantum politics, quantum medicine, which is basically biological programming, how to use computers for treatment of disease, and what actually we do at a company called Yana. So, in order to know what is quantum computers, we have to know what is a qubit. A qubit is similar to bit in classical computers, but they have like several differences. For example, bit can only be 0 or 1. That means your switch is only on or off. That means when you transfer data from one computer to another one, you either transfer the file or not, right? So you cannot open a file that is halfway transferred. In qubit, because they don't follow the classical physics, they follow quantum physics, they can be either 0 or 1. So that means that the speed of transferring the file is much faster because they live in both states at the same time. So that means we need 2 to the power n classical bits to encode the same amount of information as n bits. So the speed is much faster. And what is 0 and 1 states? In molecules, electrons are distributed between different orbitals. So 0 is when the electrons are in the first orbital layer. And 1 is when the electrons are excited to the next layer. This is called excited state. So that's why we classify it by 0 or 1. Same thing like classical bits. But in quantum, we can have quantum entanglement, meaning that electrons can be at the first layer or second layer or all layers at the same time together. Things like this happening at social sciences and politics. For example, a simple case would be Brexit. You never know whether England is in the AU or not. They are and they are not, right? Because they are in the transition phase, right? So this is a good example to connect quantum physics to social sciences or soft sciences. Okay, so here is the Moore's law. Moore's law talks about limitation, in computers, in basically transistors density and minimum feature size. If you look at here, we reached some kind of asymptote in 2010 in terms of transistor density. Also, in terms of length scale, we are pretty much limited, because we are close to 10 nanometer. And if you go below that, you would reach the electron size, like quantum size, which doesn't follow, classical rules anymore. The beauty of quantum is that people connect to it. Why? Because people are thinking about quantum teleportation, and even when I was at university, I was a theoretician. But I had easy time connecting to experimentalists because experimentalists like quantum because this is like real life. So it's a business opportunity, even though the physics and mathematics behind it are very complicated. I can tell you even the most successful scientists who won Nobel Prize, they don't know really what is quantum physics, right? Nobody understands it quite well, but people can connect to it because it has interesting stuff like in movies or in imagination, and imagination can drive us to the future. So, what is quantum finance? There is a guy called, his name is Ray Dalio. He owns the biggest hedge fund in the universe. He declares national and global emergency based on the trends we can observe, in the charts. For example, if you look at the charts, you will see that the top 0.1% own as much money as the low 90%. And this happened both in the era of 1945 to 1950, and also right now it's happening. So what does this mean? What happened in 1940 till 1950? Big debt, recession, right? World War II, and all of those stuff, right? So according to his idea, we are due for all of this stuff, right? So it's kind of an opportunity how to handle this stuff. Big powers are posturing against each other, right? And every day it becomes more intense. Look at the trade war between US and China, right? Fall and rise of superpower. This happened in history, right? All the time. So this posturing, tells us something is happening. And we are at a paradigm shift, basically. So it's very important how we handle this situation so our country can benefit from it. So what happened in 1940, we entered an era of populism as well. We are now in era of populism in politics and basically in finance as well. So that means our capitalism is falling. And we need a reform. We need a reform for capitalism. It doesn't work anymore, right? So this reform is not socialism. This reform is a reform to capitalism to make it better. So we all need to change. So all of these other charts, they show that how populism growing in terms of finance, and the average household income for most of people is not increasing, but only for rich families. This circular graph shows the accumulation of wealth in different sectors. Almost 80% of the money is accumulated in finance, and 10% in healthcare, 5% in education, and 5% in retirement. This money should flow. It doesn't flow, right? According to the rules of physics, when something is not flowing, that means there is a problem with economy. So an explosion can happen, right? Because this phase, which is the finance sector, is getting really fat. So a healthy economy is talking about flowing money between different sectors. Ray Dalio has some sort of a cause-effect solution. Cause-effect solution is based on Newtonian physics. That means if you apply a force, you would get the opposite force with the same amount, right? But we know that humans, they are not following Newtonian rules. Humans, they're considerate, they basically follow quantum mechanics rules. So Ray Dalio's technique is sharing the pie. The pie I showed you in the previous diagram, meaning that the poor and rich people, they should come together and they work together so that they have more education, and by having education, they can work for rich people. And by doing so, the pie can be even extended even further, because this is not socialism, because the rich would be even richer compared to now. Instead of having crises such as homeless people, such as financial crisis, such as civil war. Education would result into productivity, and all of this would result in beautiful deleveraging, because all of the charts would show a big debt recession. We would enter this phase, but it's important how we get out of this. So we have to have a systematic strategy, which is called beautiful deleveraging, to get out of this phase. What is a quantum solution? People, when they think about quantum computers, they only think about speed. They want the quantum computers for higher speed. But what we're really interested in is quantum supremacy, meaning that computations that cannot be done on classical computers, but also with quantum physics. Because a lot of AI models, they are not predictive. They are simple mathematical models. They don't have any future prediction. They're just overfitting. And they're not very reliable, because they don't have a physical concepts behind them. They are just fitting to some previous data. And everybody is struggling with that right now. Now business started to understand that AI is not final solution. So we need quantum AIs based on physics. We should understand the physics behind each concept in order to model the things that happen in the nature. So quantum solution is not non-deterministic. The cause-effect solution is failing. We cannot rely on the future by cause-effect solution. And up until now, people in finance, they would think that finance is chaotic, is randomness, right? But it's not randomness, it is quantum. So finance is quantum. The creation of Earth, the creation of the universe is not random. It follows rules of quantum physics, right? So the idea of everything happened randomly is going away because quantum physics directs us with the rules of chaotic thermodynamics to the basically non-random world. Quantum solution also considers irrational behavior and emotion into the model because finance trading is all about emotion, right? Also, if we don't use thermodynamics, that means we use a brute force situation in quantum, so which is not very reliable. So it's better to always, combine quantum with thermodynamics to get a better solution. So right now, pension, healthcare, and debt services will become increasingly difficult to meet. So we have to know that all of these are happening right now.
Can I?
Sure.
So quantum, how does it model human behavior? How is it going to be able to model emotion and make it predictable?
Right.
That just seems like that should be your field, I think. But how do you model human emotions and be able to predict? And of course, they drive the financial markets.
Correct.
So how does that work?
Sure. Very good question, actually. If you study like human behavior, that means, as I talked about, the quantum entanglement, right? Being at two states at the same time, right?
Right.
So the human behavior is very similar to electrons, or positrons, or phonons, right? So all of these things are related. So that means quantum is a good model for human behavior. I will show you, later charts, how we go through emotions, from anger, fear, happiness, joy, and how quantum would address that.
So you can't do it down to the individual. You could do it down to the group of humans, or an individual human.
Right.
Because if you could do individual humans, you could predict crime.
Correct. Very good question. Inside our neurons, the neurons are connected together via electromagnetism and also via some concentration exchange, like chemical composition exchange, right? Me and you are connected to each other, right? Through some forces, right? You can impact me, I can impact on you, right? Through some emotional transfer. Maybe it is electromagnetism forces, maybe it's not. But you can model this kind of force through the electromagnetic, electrodynamic rules in quantum physics, right? As long as you get the result, it doesn't matter whether connection between me and you, it is electrodynamics or not, right? So, but the behavior is very similar to electrons. That's why quantum is a very good candidate for soft sciences. For soft sciences such as social sciences or politics, or finance. Yeah.
Mind-bending.
So, what is the solution for financial crisis? The first one is productivity, right? You have to generate some income, right? We are living on an economy that is based on debt, right? Debt can be good or bad, right? If you take the credit to build a highway, over the time you can pay off your loan and actually make some money. Or if you take a credit that you cannot pay it later, that's a problem. In a debt-based economy, the first thing we need to do is productivity, right? And here, where the technology can help us. The second part is the countries without any loan, or indebtedness. Right now, a lot of U.S. loan is not, accumulated within us. Is accumulated inside a foreign debt, which is the worst possible, way of having debts, right? So indebtedness is the second part. The third part is, the ability to understand the human nature. Human nature is very interesting because when the economy is good, we always think that oh, it's going to be good forever, right? And it's going to be a self-driving force. When the things, are hard, everybody would think that, oh, it's Armageddon, right? It's going to be bad and worse every day, and that's how the investors behave. That's just part of human nature, right? Understanding the human nature is very important to make rational decisions, especially for policymakers. Policymakers have an enormous, impact in making decisions, even more than hedge fund owners or people in Wall Street. But the thing is, when it comes to making decisions, they are emotional too. And sometimes there are lack of knowledge, So that all creates opportunity for us, to help them to make, rational decisions. The fourth one would be technology, of course, such as AI, quantum computing, that can help, policymakers and people, executives to make rational decisions. Security, such as cybersecurity, is very important these days, especially because the world is polarized. We need to find a way to secure the assets. And the last part is research. Research is very important, right? Business always ignore this part, but research is time-consuming. But it's very important to shift the technology, because there are many things that are not working. So we need people who can basically move the border of science. So we are living in a paradigm shift. The equity prices are increasing really fast. That means, this is an alarm. Maybe gold, is a good also investment as well. But you have to basically diversify your portfolio. And that's why we need quantum AI models, to give us the best advice for diversification of wealth. Okay, so let's talk about quantum politics. According to Hudson think tank, they are an political organization in the US. They talk about the new shift in the world. Right now, we are dealing with important forces in the world. There are 8 important forces in the world, 8 countries mentioned in the Hudson category: US, Iran, Israel, Russia, China, India, Germany, and Japan. In the coarse-grained model, that you consider the world, it's just enough to just consider these countries and how they interact with each other. And then when you want to refine your model, you can, consider other interactions. The problem, emergence of populism. This is the problem for our country. So from the right side, the Trump victory is a quantum fact, right? No polls could have predicted that, right? So they talk, oh, Trump used AI models to win, right? I'm sure Hillary Clinton used AI models as well, right? They had some data scientists as well. But the fact that Trump won the election was a quantum situation. This is a quantum fact, because it was not predicted through classical physics, through classical models. Couldn't predict that. Now we are dealing with another populism in the left side, which is Sanders, right? So all of these things would cause into emotional decision making. So emergence of populism would cause to emotional decision making, polarized society, policymakers do not collaborate. You see what's happening in the Senate, what's happening in the House of Representatives. They don't collaborate with each other to work for people, right? They always fight. But it's good, because in our country, fighting and having, opposite ideas is good as long as it causes growth. But that doesn't, cause growth. This is not productive. So the problem with the emergence of populism is the fall of democracy. Because what is really populism? Populism is the power of a common man, right? Power of someone who is bullying, right? Power of basically attacking with the alpha male tactic, right? Putting fear into society. This is populism. And then that's the wealth gap, between poor and rich would accelerate this fact. That would cause nationalism. That would cause protectionism, right? That would cause militarism, right? And that would cause media control, right? Media control is basically control of minds, right? That, all of these things due to a polarized society, due to populism, would cause basically a situation that goes into a dictatorship. So these things are happening. These are the studies, these are the trends that are showing, these things are happening. And this is not only in the US. The whole world, is polarized. These alarms are can be seen in the whole Europe, in other countries such as Brazil, right? In Argentina, right? So a lot of demonstrations is happening. The governments are either far right or far left. So and emotional decision making are prevailing in the world. So what is a quantum solution for that? So there are two, because people are spectrum, like chemistry, like substances. There is no one really completely right or completely left. They are not even between, right? They're biased towards one side. So, for example, someone might like socialism, right? But a little bit they might like free markets as well, right? Because of the spectrum, this concept is spectrum. That means it can be modeled through quantum physics. Free choice or pro-life, right? So maybe someone likes abortion. This is my body, right? Or maybe someone is pro-life. But there is no one completely right. There is not 0 or 1. It can be 0 and 1 at the same time. So again, quantum computing, right? So this is entanglement. You can no longer sit somewhere and eat bad soup and say, "Oh, this is my body. I wanna eat bad soup, right?" And then you get some diseases, and you can transfer to everyone else, right? This is also quantum, right? So everything is related. We are so connected. The world is so intertwined. We cannot separate each other, right? If something bad happens to my friend, that means something bad happened to me. So we are bringing all people together, right? Chemistry, plus and minus, right? So